Well, this is where I think the giant stuff for me gets interesting, because now you've got some more like modern takes on where these giants came from, and I think the Ancient Alien series is pretty funny, because I don't think that stuff is true, but these guys are totally into it. And so I wanted to play a few just to kind of see what your reaction is. We talked a little bit about Goliath, and this was like the funniest take on Goliath that I had heard.
I'm intrigued.
Ethan, this is cut 3.
Some believe the giant in the Old Testament story of David and Goliath may also be an early representation of Bigfoot.
If you think about the story of David and Goliath,
Oh wait, there's more.
Goliath is huge and he's big and he's hairy, but he doesn't live on the edge of civilization or avoid people. He's really being used as a weapon, almost, a weapon of terror against the Israelites.
When you start
And we
reading
don't
the
have
Bible
any,
in more detail and
we don't have any
descriptions of
evidence of
these
that either.
giants, there were various other big creatures in our ancestors' world which we no longer are aware of, and Bigfoot might just be one category which somehow has been able to survive. Whether or not Goliath is a Bigfoot, they definitely sit within the same category of a creature which clearly is not human, but clearly is also present here, and which is taller than our ancestors were.
How weak of an argument is that? Nobody's ever discussed that it was a human. I mean, and that it wasn't a human.
So funny.
They're only going off of that because of the possible height and size of it.
Well,
and it could be hairy.
And Goliath was described as being like really hairy, and it just
remember he talked too. You know, he went out there and.
How do you know if Bigfoot couldn't talk?
He can't talk now. I've heard them. They only make these weird sounds.
Yeah,
they would only get better at it.
Yeah,
at this point.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Well, maybe you're onto something. That's pathetic. That's
Isn't
terrible.
that a ridiculous thing?
I mean, I should just go off. I mean, these are just
well. But here's the thing, though,
book writers.
is that even if the story of David and Goliath isn't true, but it's really just a mythical story, then you can make a claim of anything. If it is true, it doesn't sound familiar to Bigfoot. That is a ridiculous
stretch.
It's such a stretch, yeah.
But it was interesting to hear another possibility.
Another perspective. Uh-huh.
I could be wrong here, just as much as they are.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, let's do cut 5. So Adam and Eve, like I was saying, my grandparents had these books, and my grandma told me these stories that Adam and Eve, they were giants, because that's the way humans started off. Is humans were giants originally, and then after they left the Garden of Eden and got to the point of the flood, then all this stuff was wiped away, and then humans are now in their current form.
And again, though, your perception of what a giant is, because I always thought of them as large people, but I never called them a giant myself. I always thought they were just. Everybody was just maybe that would make sense if everybody's, stature back in the day was always just, let's say they're commonly 7 feet. Well, they'll all be, I guess maybe giants. I guess you could call them that. Sure.
Yeah, but again, it's relative. If you're super short, everyone's a giant.
Usually, I believe I can't speak for everybody, but I would imagine most people when they think giant, they think somebody that could, put their fist on top of your house and cave it in. Just this massive, like 15 feet plus.
Yeah.
Not 7 to 10 feet. 10 feet maybe even, though. That's big. But go ahead.
All right, another one of my favorites, because these are from the Ancient, Aliens series on is it History Channel. And these ancient astronaut theorists, these guys crack me up. All right, go ahead.
Legend states that Adam originally was, by our definition, a giant. That the original Adamic race was not of the same physical stature as we human beings are today. Some claim that the original Adamic race were giants. Is this a legend of symbolism, or is there something actual to it?
Was the biblical Adam a giant? Could it be that all of humanity is descended from a race that was of a much greater stature? and that there was a time on Earth when giants were prevalent and humans were the anomaly.
I feel bad for their how they made babies. That had to be rough.
Yeah.
So
the pre-artificial insemination.
But so the funny thing is are they giants compared to what we know is large? Mm-hmm. Because back then, if they're the only ones-ish, they're not giants. They're just beings. They're just there.
Yeah.
You know,
but
they're common.
But it cracks me up because this particular series, it just makes you then question everything. You know, it's like, well, if this is the case, then maybe this thing. And it's like, it takes you down that maze that you were talking about earlier, and you finally get to a dead end. I do have one more.
Sure.
And then I'll be done with the Ancient Alien business. Again, it's from the Ancient Alien series, and this is where the alien part comes in.
All right, good.
When we look at the modern evolutionary cycle for human beings, it's still put on the shoulders of Darwinistic views. So anything that steps outside of those viewpoints is usually greatly challenged. Mainstream science has had a very hard time wrapping their head around the idea that there could have been a lost race, part extraterrestrial, part human.
In mythology, the giants were a fact. They did exist.
Oh.
What we are missing are the bones of giants.
We're missing
From
the bones.
time to time, anthropologists found some
Fake.
big bones. But then other anthropologists contradicted it. But definitely giants did exist in the past. And they were the result of a mixture between extraterrestrials and humans.
Well...
I love it. I love it.
I will say, you could be also considering angels, fallen angels,
as extraterrestrials.
So there could be some truth to that. But what I love is we don't have any evidence of this. We don't have any evidence of that. None of this has been proven, and neither has that. But it's a fact.
Yeah,
they exist. It happened. So, regardless of all the stuff that's been debunked, I'm still on board with this. Thanks for listening to the shortened version of our show.
If you want to catch the full audio episode, you can find it here or wherever you find your podcast. But if you want to see the full version in video format, you can catch us on YouTube, Rumble, and now on Spotify.